recorded, Trevor. All right. Well, I am Lord Magnificent,
And I'm Trevor Thompson.
and we're here with the third episode of Retro Revelations. We'll be discussing the Disney era of Power Rangers. This is the last Power Rangers episode we're going to do for a while because we decided arbitrarily that the cutoff for anything retro is 10 years for us.
Indeed.
Okay, so yeah, we have a lot to get through today. It's let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 seasons of Power Rangers.
Yeah, pretty much.
But we decided this was the best way of doing this, so let's get started with
Yeah,
Ninjas.
because if we did some of the later ones, those would be too recent, so they really wouldn't be retro.
Yeah. And we're kind of, like I said that we're done talking about Power Rangers, but I think we're kind of done talking about Power Rangers.
At least for a little bit.
Yeah, at least in a professional setting. I mean, I'm like I started watching this way back in March with when all the pandemic stuff was going on, and I'm just now getting Ninja Steel, which is the currently penultimate Power Rangers season.
Yes, indeed. And the last Neo Saban season before they transitioned to Hasbro.
Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see that transition. And someday we might talk about that. Not today. Today we will talk about so many other different Power Rangers things.
Yes.
Like I don't even remember half of these. Like I have the Wikipedia pages up here to make sure that I know what I'm talking about.
Yeah, so do I. It's funny, I really like this era, but again, it's that whole, I go through it once and I haven't revisited it yet. So, I
Yeah,
have to go by memory.
And there's just so many seasons of Power Rangers. There's like 20 something of them.
Yeah.
After a while, they kind of run together.
Well, and I consider myself, somewhat of a big fan. So it's still funny that I just don't know everything like right off the top of my head.
Yeah. Okay. So the first season after Disney took over fully was a Ninja Storm.
Yes, sir. That's it.
And it's the first to be filmed in New Zealand. And you can tell that most of these, from this point forward, were filmed in New Zealand because occasionally they'll just throw in a guy who is just like from New Zealand.
Well, yeah, and also the actors, sometimes their accents slip a little bit, which is funny sometimes.
Yeah. Okay, so Ninja Storm.
This was kind of low on our rankings, wasn't it?
Let me pull up the rankings. I think it was. Like, there's nothing wrong with it. It was just after everything else, it just kind of. Yeah, it was second lowest for me and third lowest for you, so.
Yeah. I think together with Dino Thunder, which came right after, this was kind of the Mighty Morphin period for the Disney era.
Yeah.
And this, I guess, would be leaning more into some of the sillier stuff for Mighty Morphin.
Yeah, like the Zordon in this one was a guinea pig, but it was a ninja master who got changed into a guinea pig, which
with some early 2000 CGI.
Yeah, it was not great. It was not great at all.
I caught the Sentai, the original source footage, and they did the same thing, but it was a practical guinea pig. And he looked a lot better.
Yeah, they should have done that with this.
Oh, but us Americans, we can't have anything non-CGI.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Who are the characters in this one?
Let's see. This started a theme where, for a little bit anyway, they had 3 core Rangers. Red, yellow, and blue.
Yeah, which I'm guessing that was a holdover from the Japanese series.
Yeah, and they actually started doing that really early, like back in the early '80s, and then they kind of phased out of it, and they came back to doing it with this.
Yeah.
So,
Well, they eventually got 6 Rangers.
yeah, which is usually the main amount that they top out at.
Yeah. Yeah, let's see. We had Shane Clarke, the Red Wind Ranger. I don't remember anything about him.
Well, here it says he was a skateboarder, which now
Okay.
that I can remember him doing that a lot.
And Tori Hansen was like a surfer. She was a Blue Ranger.
Yep, yep.
And Waldo Dustin Brooks was just like the
Waldo.
weird kid, I
Yeah, yeah.
think. And he was
Dirt
also a
bike.
skateboarder.
Yeah.
Yeah, this show had an emphasis on extreme sports, like
Yeah,
motocross and everything.
because early on, back when Power Rangers started, it was all about martial arts. And here we have the extreme sports.
And they still do martial arts, just
They do well. I mean,
yeah,
they're learning to be ninjas.
yeah. And the Alpha 5 in this one was the guinea pig's son, Cam, and he became the Green Samurai Ranger eventually.
Yeah, kind of cutting corners there where they have two different roles for like it's not just separate for like the alpha, but it's the alpha, but also the sixth ranger who's green again.
They wind up doing that a lot, I think.
Yeah, and I don't know if that was for like an official reason. I know that going to New Zealand was a cost cutting measure, but I don't know if that applied to like story decisions. I'm sure it did to an extent.
Yeah, yeah, like if you only have one season, you're not gonna try and shoehorn an entirely new character. I mean, most of these have shoehorned entirely different characters in to take up the Six Ranger role, so I know what I'm talking about, but I don't know, maybe they thought it'd be less confusing.
Well, the funny thing was, I'm reading here that Disney was actually going to cancel the show right after Wild Force, but the main reason they continued is because they could produce it for a fraction of the previous cost.
Makes
So
sense.
I'm sure that trickled down
Yeah.
in all ways.
Yeah, Lothor. I don't remember much about Lothor.
Uh, I kind of thought he was the male Divatox, but not nearly as appealing.
That makes sense. Okay, yeah, now I remember him. And he had those two hench girls who were like alien ninjas or something, right?
Yeah, they were supposed to be his nieces.
Yeah, I like them.
Yeah, let me see.
Yeah. Mara and Capri.
Yes, sir, that's it.
And then there were a bunch of weird robots and monsters and everything, and it's just
Yeah, basically just suits carried over.
This was silent due to human error.
Hey, Mike, you lost audio.
okay. What was the last thing you heard?
We were starting to talk about the nieces.
Oh yeah, I like them.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Well, and also one of the actresses, she came back for Dino Thunder.
yeah. Okay, one thing I didn't like about this one is that I mean, like I liked initially how they had two evil rangers,
Yeah.
but they were basically another red and blue ranger.
Yeah, Crimson and Navy to
yeah,
distinguish them.
yeah, and it's like they're just another red and blue ranger. Why didn't you give them different colors? There's so many colors.
It's true. Well, we could say the same thing about Time Force, how the Quantum Ranger was just a darker shade of red.
I didn't like that either, actually.
Yeah.
And then he got shoehorned into that Red Ranger crossover.
It's like they want to kind of just stick with primary colors as much as possible.
I'm glad they do get away from that eventually.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Any strong feelings about Ninja Force
Well, I mean, I liked it, but
or whatever this
this
was named? Ninja Storm.
there you go, there you go. This era definitely has some better stuff coming down the pipeline, but this was an okay start.
Yeah, it was a good first effort.
Yeah, yeah.
And then next we have a Dino Thunder,
Which is pretty
which
high up on our lists.
yeah, for me it was second. For you it was third.
Yep, yep.
And they go back to dinosaurs. Tommy Oliver is back, and he's now a paleontologist, which confuses everyone who hears about it. Like, there's an episode, I think, is it in this season or the next season, where someone mentions that Tommy is now a paleontologist, and it's like, oh, what? That's weird. Oh no, that's in Operation Overdrive, I think.
Yeah, it's whenever Adam came back for that Once a Ranger episode.
Yeah, that would be Operation Overdrive.
Yeah.
Yeah, I like the Rangers in this one a little bit better than
Ninja Storm?
Ninja Storm. Yeah, I can't remember its name.
That says a lot, doesn't it?
Yeah, there's Connor, Ethan, and Kira.
Yes.
And then some guy named Trent. I don't remember the White Dino Ranger at all.
He's basically filling in the evil Tommy for this season.
Yeah, I remember Kira. She was a singer.
Yeah.
And then Ethan was like the brainy guy, and Connor.
The jock.
Remember. Yeah.
Soccer, I believe. Yeah, he was a soccer player.
Yeah. Then you had Mesagog as a villain.
Yes. Yes.
Oh, yeah, and Tommy was a Zordon for this one.
Yeah, and this season didn't have 6 Rangers. They only had 5.
Yeah, which was fine. I mean, they made it work.
Yeah. So I guess with Tommy being the Zordon, they should probably do this a little more, where they have the mentor actually be a Ranger. I mean, they actually do a fair amount in this era.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, like I feel like for most of these, we don't really have a lot to say about them because they're serviceable, but they came in a point where, like, we were kind of burned out on Power Rangers.
Well, it's funny. Whenever I was going through them again, I was fairly excited to see these, but it's been a while since I did that. So
yeah. And this one, Mesagog was a villain. I actually liked what they did with Mesagog because he was, I think he was Trent's father, right?
Yeah, and also, hold on. Yeah, his right hand lady was the principal of the school too.
Yeah, so I like that. I liked how they incorporated their villains into like the actual day-to-day lives of the Power Rangers.
Yeah, and Mesagog had a nice Jekyll and Hyde thing going on.
Yeah.
Plus, he's an evil dinosaur man, so what's not to like about that?
Yeah.
I think this era probably has the most original villains created exclusively for Power Rangers. I might be mistaken on that, but I do believe every single one's an original.
That's pretty interesting. It probably cost them a little bit more to do, but I mean,
well, they obviously cut costs where they needed to, so they were able to put the money where it counted, I guess you could say.
yeah. And this one brought back like the side characters with that one, the girl from Katrina Devine was Mara in the last season, like you said, and in here she's Cassidy, who's like she wants to be a reporter.
Yeah.
And she has like this guy who follows her around and does stuff.
They're kind of a different take on the Bulk and Skull, archetype. but they're a little bit different, so they stand out.
Yeah.
And let's see, Dino Thunder and Ninja Storm also had, I think, the same producer, Doug Sloan.
Let me see.
Saw that. I think I saw that on the Ninja Storm page.
Yeah, he's on the Dino Thunder too, so if that interests anybody.
Well, I mean, I point that out because these two do seem to have a similar vibe, although Dino Thunder improves on what Ninja Storm kind of set up.
Yeah.
So, and they also apparently, whenever they do conventions, they apparently do these two together.
That
Ninja
makes
Storm,
sense.
Dino Thunder, yeah. At least the last one I saw did that.
Yeah. And then, anything else to say about Dino Thunder?
No, I mean, it's just, it's always nice to see dinosaurs with Power Rangers.
Yeah. Most of the time.
Yeah, we'll get there.
Yeah, we are going to talk about the Neo Saban era a little bit after this because we have
yeah,
we have some thoughts about that.
and they're pretty much the same, although I might be just a little more positive about it.
You'd have to be, honestly.
Yeah.
Okay, and next up is SPD, which
Is
we were
pretty
both
high.
yeah, we were both pretty happy with this one.
Yes.
Because like my main problem with Time Force was that they brought all this time travel nonsense up in like the first episode, and then it never really came into play again until like the finale. But SPD was actually like a future space Power Ranger thing going on. So
Yeah.
there were aliens and all that.
I mean, they did their policing like they were supposed to the whole season.
Yeah. And they, I like their crossover with Dino Thunder. I thought they did a pretty good job with that.
What'd you think about the previous one, the Ninja Storm Dino Thunder team up? Just okay?
I don't remember most of it. I think I liked it when I was watching it, and I remember that they had some jokes about how the hench girl and Cassidy were played by the same person.
Yeah, I do remember that. Yeah.
Yeah,
But
well, one thing I did like about going back to Ninja Storm, I liked how by the end the two hench girls had kind of redeemed themselves and were trying to be good after that.
yeah, it's always nice to see those kinds of developments because these shows tend to be very black and white with how they deal with the villains.
Even Dino Thunder did that with the whole Anton Mercer Mesagog thing.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Then SPD, I don't even remember what they're trying to do with SPD. Like, what was the point? Like, I liked it, but I don't remember what was going on.
Yeah. Well, like you said, a lot of these blend together at a certain point.
Yes, Emperor Grum?
I think I compared it to Men in Black Cops. So they were basically making sure that alien immigrants did what they were supposed to most of the time.
And where did Emperor Groom come into play? Like, what was his point? What was he trying to do?
Well, at first we thought he was like a Lord Zed type, but it turned out he was basically a puppet for some other kind of threat that didn't get revealed until like towards their big finale. I believe it was called Omni.
Yeah, I don't remember. I just remember, like, they did a good job with everything. Like, I did like how they did start giving them superpowers. They started that with a Wild Force. But by
Yeah,
this point, it was just completely
random, maybe.
yeah, kind of random. But they
Yeah.
were aliens and stuff, so it kind of worked out.
Well, that again, another theme that carries over throughout the era is that they started giving them superpowers outside of their morph. So
And let's see, we had Jack Landers, yeah, Red Ranger. I don't remember much about him.
he and Z, who was the Yellow Ranger, they were living on the street.
I liked Z, and Z
Yeah.
could duplicate herself or something,
Yes, I believe that's what she could do.
something like that.
And this season starts out with the blue, green, and pink as the three, and then they recruit the red and yellow.
Yeah, I'm trying to. Okay, Bridge, Curse, and the Green Ranger. He was just kind of. He was just kind of weird, wasn't he?
Yeah.
Like they all had powers, but I don't remember what their powers are. Because
Well, I think you were right about Z is that she could duplicate herself.
yeah, she was my favorite one, so that's the only reason I remember her.
Yeah, yeah.
And uh, I remember that the Blue Ranger and the Red Ranger had kind of a rivalry thing going on.
Yeah, because the Blue Ranger, Sky, he wanted to be the Red Ranger the whole time. But really his problem was that he was kind of a douche.
Yeah, I think by the end of it, he did become the Red Ranger, though. But then
He did,
Bridge became the Red Ranger too.
yeah, which was funny, but I think that was actor availability.
Yeah. Oh, the Zordon for this one was Doggy Kruger, which
Roger Kruger, yeah.
like every time I hear that name, it's just like, why?
Why? Well, here's an interesting tidbit about SPD is that they took advantage. The Disney didn't really care that much for the Power Rangers brand, so they kind of let the creators do whatever they wanted. So they basically looked at the original Sentai, and they didn't care for the way Doggy Kruger looked in the original. So they basically made a new version. And if you compare the two, even though the American version is still, like a goofy looking practical effect, it's still a little bit better than the Japanese one.
We'll
So
have to
that go ahead.
we'll have to find it and we'll put it on the page.
Yeah, I'll track it
So
down. So
yeah,
that's kind of an interesting reverse of the Ninja Storm situation where the Sentai mentor looks better than the American version.
sometimes you get things right. And the Zordon, no, the Alpha 5 was Cat Max, who was a cat girl.
Yes, and
They
she
were
became
very on the nose with names in this. I think there was like another character who was a bird, and they called him Birdie.
yeah one of
So
the highest in SPD.
yeah, and Anubis and Doggy Kruger's real name is Anubis,
Mm-hmm.
but Doggy and Cat, like Doggy was a sixth ranger in this,
Yeah,
like the seventh ranger, because were there like another ranger too or something?
let's see. There's 4 additional Rangers. So Doggy Kruger was the sixth. He was the Shadow Ranger. Then they had the Omega Ranger, who was supposed to be from the future, and he only showed up as a ball of light.
Oh yeah, I remember that now. Yeah.
And then Kat, she was the 8th Ranger, and she only morphed once.
But she's in the game. She's in the Battle for the Grid game.
Oh, yeah. And I'm glad they put her in there because
Yeah.
she gets a lot more screen time there. And then there was the Nova Ranger, and I'm trying to remember what was unique about them.
I don't even know. I remember nothing about the Nova Ranger. Sam, the Omega Ranger. Oh, didn't they help him in like an earlier episode, and then he
She,
came
she's
back from the future?
Yeah, she's another future ranger. So basically, the Nova and Omega Rangers are from the future, which is funny because this whole season's technically in the future,
Yeah, so it's further in the future.
further future, yeah. But even though we're struggling to remember things, this was a pretty good highlight for the Disney era.
It was.
Not just in how they kind of diverged from the Sentai and tried to improve it a bit, I guess, but just like the theme song's really good. It had Ron Wasserman return, and he did a lot of the earlier seasons. And it was also pretty well written, I thought.
It was.
Yeah.
And next we have. Well, anything else you want to say about SPD?
No, that it just was like I guess it was the breakout for this era.
Okay, because next we have to talk about Mystic Force.
Which is actually our very bottom one.
Which is a shame because I had such high hopes for it.
Yeah, it's a really neat aesthetic.
Yeah, I like magic and fantasy stuff, and I like Power Rangers, so I figured combine the two and it would be great, but it was just I think it was just too weird. I think they just went off the rails with it.
Well, for one thing, the theme song was terrible.
It was.
This was the first one, which was like, oh my gosh, why did they go with that? And then you could really tell they were trying to ride the Harry Potter wave.
Yeah. And like they made so many weird choices. Like okay, so yeah, the Rangers here were Nick, who he was this like no Xander was from New Zealand, right?
Yeah.
And then Nick was some orphan who was later on we find out that it's the Zordon's son.
Yeah.
Vita she was like a punk rock kind of girl, right?
Yeah, and Pink.
And then I don't remember anything about the Blue and Yellow Rangers. I think the Blue Ranger was it was Vita's sister, and then Chip was. I don't remember anything about Chip.
He was kind of a dork. I think that's what I remember most about him.
That makes sense.
Yeah, the Zordon for this era is Udana, and she was the White Mystic Ranger.
Yeah, and she's also in the game.
Yes, indeed. She's also she doesn't have a Zord. She just grows big,
which is fun.
And it's interesting. Technically, the Zords in this season are just them, but with armor on. The Mystic Titans are basically a suit that they wear whenever they grow gigantic.
Except for that one Zord, like a Daggeron. He was the one with where like whenever he uses Zord, it started playing like train noises for some reason.
Yeah, it was actually a train, I do believe. Which again goes into the whole Harry Potter thing.
Yeah, it's like, but why do you have to play the same like train music and noise every time you transform?
I don't know. I guess it's kind of like whenever Tommy summoned the Dragon Zord back in Mighty Morphin. That always had the same tune.
And there was that cat genie guy, Genji.
Yeah. Genji, yeah. He was pretty.
Yeah, I didn't think I would like him, but he turned out to be actually pretty okay.
Yeah.
And I guess they did do some decent storylines. There was that whole thing where they had to travel through some kind of weird alternate reality because magic had been destroyed and they had to go get it back.
Yeah.
And it turned out that Rita Repulsa, but like not our Rita, the Japanese Rita, she became like the good witch and keeper of magic.
The mystic mother who was basically overseeing everything.
I did like that. I did like that nod back to Rita.
Yeah, there were some interesting progressions, but I'm not quite sure. I guess it's just there was something off about it. It didn't quite reach its potential.
Okay, one thing about fantasy is that you have to have like set rules, and I feel like they didn't have any set rules for this show.
Yeah, there was a bit of an anything goes going on.
Yeah, which is the wrong way to do magic. If you're gonna do magic, at least like that's one thing I I guess Harry Potter has is that there are rules, but most of the time they just get broken anyway, so that's probably not a good choice. Lord of the Rings, they have rules for their magic.
Yeah, I
Like
guess I guess part of the problem might be the fact that Sentai in general is just a bit wacky. So it kind of goes in various directions that don't usually abide by very specific rules. What were you going to say?
I was just gonna set off more examples of what has magic with decent rules, but I don't think we actually need to do that.
How about just one more?
Dungeons and Dragons.
Oh yeah, for sure.
That's like
Probably
all rules for magic, pretty much.
probably the most famous one too.
Yeah,
Really.
you're actually going through these pretty quickly. We're doing a good job today, Trevor.
Yes, sir. We're on the money.
Okay. Anything else you want to say about? Oh yeah, both Mystic Force and SPD had like a weird side character. SPD had Turtle, I think his name was, and he was an alien. He was an entrepreneur who also was kind of shady.
I think Piggy. I think that was his name.
Piggy, okay, yeah, I knew it was an animal. And this had like a troll guy.
Yeah, and the actor who played this troll guy, he would pop up uh, through various seasons. Like for SPD, he was the one guy who worked at SPD who wanted to be a ranger,
Yeah, I
but
remember
never.
him.
Yeah, and then he ended up playing the troll guy in this, and then he pops up in a few more after this.
Yeah, there was that one episode where the troll guy and Piggy met
Yeah,
for some reason. It's like, well, this is what's going on here? Are you gonna explain where things are where they fit chronologically or anything like that?
just have to make it up as you go along and put the pieces together yourself, I guess.
I guess. Uh, yeah, there was something else I was gonna say about SPD that I remembered, but now I forgot it again.
Well, it
Oh
might pop.
well, yeah.
This one, Mystic Force and SPD, they kind of reminded me of Time Force and Wild Force a little bit.
That makes sense.
They had similar shades, but they were still unique on their own.
Yeah. Well, I did like the costumes. I did like the Power Ranger costumes in this. I like the capes.
Oh yeah, definitely. If the season itself sometimes is lacking, at least the costumes and the Zords usually kind of save it a little bit.
And like this one also had like they all worked at a record store. And then like the troll guy worked at the record store. And then like the evil witch queen or whatever.
Yeah, Vampire Queen. There we go.
Yeah, the vampire queen. Her daughter worked at the record store too because she wanted to be normal and friends with people.
And she pops up in Jungle Fury as Camille.
Huh.
So yeah, there was definitely a lot of actors being shared during this era. They just carried them on over as different characters.
Makes sense. If you know what they can do, you just use them again.
Well, and again, That's that whole cost effectiveness.
Anything else we want to say about Mystic Force?
Uh, a neat aesthetic, but it didn't reach its full potential, so that's why it's at the bottom.
Yeah. Okay, so next is Operation Overdrive, which
I think we like a little bit more than most people do. This one usually gets bragged on a fair amount.
yeah, I liked. I liked that they were going for like the only thing I didn't like about were the villains. The villains were kind of lame and kind of terrible.
Well, the idea behind them, it wasn't so bad. It's just how they were executed.
Yeah, it was like the Heat Miser and Cold Miser.
Yeah, I think pretty much. I think the elemental idea isn't bad. It's just the character they assigned to them.
Yeah.
And the Heat Miser character, I believe he was Flurious. I'd have got that wrong. Anyway, he was actually, to correct what I said earlier, he was carried over from the Sentai. It was the Frost guy who was an American original. Oh,
Yeah,
Moltor was the fire one, which makes sense, and Flurious was the ice guy. And they're brothers.
yeah, and like there was this weird Sasquatch running around too, which just gave me flashbacks to Ninja Turtles Next Mutation.
Yeah. And that was the same actor who played the troll from Mystic Force and that one guy from SPD who wanted to be a ranger.
So much incestuous casting with this.
So much carryover.
I didn't like the Zords in this one because they're just like cars.
Well, again, it's that whole. For me, I think it was the fact that they weren't just regular vehicles you would like see on the highway. They all had some kind of utility.
Yeah, like it made sense because the Zordon is this guy is the Red Ranger's dad in this, and he's the one who made everything. So it made sense that they were cars.
Really,
In practice, it worked out real well.
Yeah, really, Operation Overdrive kind of has again, how some of these are repeating what was done in the Saban seasons. This has kind of a light speed rescue thing going on.
Yeah.
But it's probably a little bit more interesting because they're searching for relics and artifacts.
Yeah. Yeah, they can beat the Heat Miser and Cold Miser before they do something evil.
Yeah. Jewels for a crown. That's what they were trying to find.
Yeah, and it was like some powerful crown. It could do something weird. I'd destroy the world or something. I don't know.
Of course. That's how it always goes, you know.
And I don't remember much about. Okay, I remember Mac, the Red Ranger. He was a Zordon son, and it turned out he was a robot.
Yeah, because the actual son had died, I do believe.
I don't know. I don't remember. I just remember he was a robot, and I thought that was a pretty good twist.
Yeah. I mean, it's kind of funny, you know. It's funny that this has this reputation, and yet it's not at the bottom for us. I just find that kind of curious.
Well, they went into it with more of a. They knew what they wanted to do, and they did it. And they had a better. Well, yeah, they just knew better what they wanted to do with their show.
Well, one would hope so after 4 previous seasons.
I mean, we'll talk about this later. We'll talk about this later, but
yeah.
Okay, so Will was a Black Ranger. He was a spy kind of guy.
Yeah.
Dax was a stuntman. He was a Blue Ranger.
Ronnie was a driver.
Yeah, and then Rose was my favorite because she was just like a smart girl.
Which is always refreshing.
Yeah. Okay.
And then our 6th Ranger was the Mercury Ranger. And he started off as an alien. Or he was an alien.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Tyzon. He had like a monster form first, and then he became humanoid after that.
Yeah, and there was also the Sentinel Knight who
Yeah,
just showed up sometimes.
Yeah, they definitely revisit this later on, but we'll get to that.
Yeah.
Theo Saban stuff. So, what did you think of Once a Ranger?
I
The
liked
kind
it. I think they made some good choices. Also, some weird choices.
Yeah.
Okay, let's see. Like Rocky was. He was. What am I looking at here? Oh, okay. No, Adam was a Black Ranger in this.
Nice to see him come back.
Yeah.
Too bad it wasn't Zach, but there's reasons for that.
What are the reasons for that? Just bad blood
Well,
between them?
basically, Walter Jones, they, along with the actors for Jason and Trini, they weren't being paid very well, so they kind of just walked.
Yeah, but Jason came back.
Yeah, so apparently they worked out some deals for him.
Yeah, then we had Tori, the Blue Wind Ranger from Ninja Storm, or wherever that was. Kiro, the Yellow Dino Ranger, Dino Thunder Ranger. Yeah, she was the one who was talking to Adam about how Tommy was a paleontologist now, and Adam just being very confused by this.
Yeah.
Then Bridge, who was now the Red Ranger.
Mm-hmm.
Like, he explained why he was the Red Ranger now, but was still kind of out of nowhere.
Yeah, it should have been Sky, who, like we said, he was the Blue Ranger for SPD. But again, I'm sure that had to do with actor availability.
Yeah. And I think people just kind of liked Bridge more than Sky. He just seemed more
Yeah.
likable.
Yeah, he was pretty likable throughout SPD.
Yeah, and then Xander, the Green Mystic Force Ranger. Which, I mean, I like seeing him come back.
That reminds me, I think he was probably my favorite Mystic Ranger. How about you?
I liked Vita.
Vita? Okay.
Yeah.
Well, it's funny because Xander and Vita kind of had a thing going on, a rapport.
Yeah, so anything else we want to say about Mystic Force? Or, wait, no, this is Operation Overdrive.
Operation Overdrive, yeah. Well, I just like it better than most people seem to.
Yeah, I mean, it was good.
Yeah.
Like, let's see, on my list, I liked it a little bit better than you, it looks like. According to the lists.
With that, it's kind of an interchangeable thing, because I could probably change it after watching it again. That's how it is with a lot of these, really.
Yeah. Okay. All right, so next up is Jungle Fury.
I think I like this one a little bit more than you did, but it was still up there a bit.
Actually, we liked it the exact same amount.
Okay, all right. Going by that ranking we did.
Yeah. Because, like I don't know what I liked. I think it's because they had a human villain, and I like the ones where they have a human villain more, I found out.
Yeah, he was basically a human who was possessed by an evil spirit. Daishi.
And they actually played with that a little bit.
Yeah, and it affected how he developed as a character. There was this back and forth, with how you were wondering whether he would be redeemed and if he would eventually conquer Daishi.
Yeah, and Camille, she kind of contributed to that because she was this evil monster woman, but also she was developing feelings for Jared.
Yeah, yeah.
And Jared also had a tie to the initial Rangers too, because
yeah, he was basically part of their kung fu school, and he was a big douche, and he basically got booted.
Yeah.
That's the
So
simple version.
yeah, so it all worked out. They actually seem to plan everything out, and actually not subverted expectations, but just kind of went with what people kind of wanted to see. I think.
Yeah, and they did it well.
Yeah. I don't remember the Rangers all that much.
Let's see. Casey is the Red Ranger, and he's the newbie. He kind of has that inferiority complex
Yeah,
going
I
on.
didn't like how they kept on doing that. How they kept on making the Red Ranger some brand new guy who just kind of showed up and was like, "Oh yeah, you're gonna be leader of the Power Rangers."
Yeah, and they started that all the way back. I was about to say Wild Force, but they started that with Time Force.
Yeah, I hated how they did it with Wild Force, but we talked about that last time, so we won't go into that too much now.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's Theo Martin, the Blue Ranger, who I remember he had like a crush on the Yellow Ranger.
Yeah, and he was a bit. He had to stick up his butt a little bit,
Yeah,
at least at the beginning.
and what did Lily do? What was her thing?
Well, all of them, they're like their civilian thing they did was work at a jungle themed pizza place.
Yeah, but I mean, like, what was her personality?
Well, whenever she did morphing calls and whatnot, she definitely put her heart and soul into it.
And there was also their Zordon was RJ, who owned the pizza place and was also a ranger eventually.
Yeah, this to be honest, this season kind of has some shades of Dino Thunder a little bit.
It did, yeah.
For one thing, there's only 5 Rangers like that season. We also go back to the core red, yellow, and blue to start out with. And then the extra Rangers are purple instead of black, and then another White Ranger.
And the White Ranger was just like a friend of RJ's who came back. I was like, hey, I'm going to help you guys out now.
How convenient.
And they did develop RJ. I think they developed most of the characters actually.
They did, which I think is one reason why it has become a standout in recent years.
Yeah. And I liked Fran and Flit. I liked what they contributed to things because Fran was just like this kind of nerdy girl who hung around the pizza place and eventually got a job there and then found out that they were Power Rangers.
Yeah.
And I think she ended up with Dom at the end.
Yeah,
Dom
they
the
had,
White Ranger.
yeah, they definitely they started up a little relationship there towards the end.
And Flit was some guy who got turned into a fly that Camille kept in her stomach.
Yeah, and again, that one guy who kept on doing these little side bit parts, he was the voice of that fly.
And he actually also had like character development because at one point RJ made friends with him and like for the rest of the series, Flit's just trying to help the Power Rangers out as much as he can.
Yeah. It's always nice whenever again, I'm going back to that. It's not all black and white. They're not stuck in these roles the whole time.
Yeah, so I guess that like villains who are human and then villains who kind of become heroic over the course of things.
Yeah, yeah. They're not just some evil monster. Which I mean, there's some cool evil monster villains, but
Yeah, like Zed.
yeah, but there's not much to their character. He's just evil, and that's it.
And like for Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, that's all that they really needed.
Yeah, it worked for that for sure.
Okay, anything else we want to say about Jungle Fury?
Okay, well, this was the first season since Lightspeed Rescue where they had American exclusive Rangers who were the Spirit Rangers. And they were actually based on the animal spirits of the masters that they went through training courses with at one point.
Yeah, people actually died in this, didn't they?
They did, yeah.
That was unexpected for a Power Rangers show. Like even
Well,
after Kendricks died in
Lost
Lost
Galaxy.
Galaxy.
Yeah.
Like, actual death didn't pop up all that often. Except for monsters. If you're a monster, you're just going to die.
Yeah.
Monsters
Well,
died.
they probably weren't sure whether or not they should keep on doing it because, there's always somebody out there who's going to give them flack.
Yeah.
God forbid a kid show try and have kids be prepared for something they might encounter in real life.
And if you kill someone every season, it kind of loses its punch.
Which is true. And this was about almost 10 years after Lost Galaxy. So I guess they waited long enough. But anyway, I was kind of hoping that the actual mentors would be the Spirit Rangers, but they were just they were basically entities that didn't have like a civilian identity, which is unique. But that's what one of my little nitpicks.
Yeah, anything else you want to add, or
And one
shall
more
we move
thing.
on? Okay.
One more thing. Because apparently we realized we had a lot to say for this one. Remember whenever RJ turned into a werewolf?
Oh yeah, I remember that.
I like that idea, but unfortunately the werewolf looked terrible.
I mean, what do you expect?
Oh, yeah, but you remember Zanaku from Wild Force?
Yeah.
I kind of wish what they had done was they had ported over that suit and used that for that whole transformation thing.
That would have
That's what
been better, yeah.
Yeah. But live and learn.
Okay, so anything else we want to talk about with this?
No, sir. Let's move on.
All right, so the final season of the Disney era was Power Rangers RPM, and like Trevor and I both consider this to be our favorite one from this era.
Yeah, because I don't know about you, but this seemed like it was definitely taking the most risks and trying to really reinvent the brand.
Yeah, like RPM, it made me think, oh no, it's gonna be another car one, isn't it? And then I started watching it. It was like in this desolated Mad Max future.
Yeah, it's basically Mad Max, Terminator meets Power Rangers.
Yeah, and it's great. Like, it's one of the only Power Rangers show I think that I don't really care if they actually Ranger stuff.
Well, yeah, because this probably by far of the shows has probably the best, most well-rounded characters.
Yeah, and it had the Gold and Silver Rangers, which broke out of the basic color mold.
Yeah, yeah. Of course, those colors would come back, but they wouldn't be near as good as how they did it here.
No, no, and I actually remember all of the characters.
Well, there you go. That speaks to how good it is.
Yes, yeah. There's Scott, who was a cyborg who didn't have any memories, and he just kind of showed up. And I think one of the first things he does, he saves a flower and tears one of the putty patrollers in half.
Yeah,
But they're not like putty patrollers; they're robot things. I
yeah,
don't
because
remember what they're called.
our villain is basically Skynet.
Yeah. Yeah, there's a Flynn who he's this Irish guy who just wants to be your hero. And he's a good mechanic.
Yeah.
Summer, who was a rich girl who wanted to show that she was more.
Yep, yep.
Ziggy, who was some guy that the Red Ranger found in the wasteland, and he wasn't supposed to be a ranger. It just kind of happened.
Yeah, he was kind of the serious goofball.
Yeah.
Well, just in case somebody calls us out, Scott was actually the son of the guy who was heading like the military operations in the city of Corinth. And the Black Ranger is the guy you're talking about, Dylan.
Oh, Dylan. Yeah. Okay. I knew one of them. I guess I didn't remember Scott all that much then. I remember Dylan.
Yeah, Scott's whole thing was that he had the whole "I'm trying to impress my dad" thing going on.
And then you had Jem and Gemma, who were
Gold and silver.
yeah, and I really liked them because they were just kind of insane.
Yeah, they were
Like
fun to.
they were like Dr. K was the Zordon for this show, and like it turns out she's actually responsible for everything that's happening.
She's basically this child prodigy who was used for a think tank.
Yeah, and Jem and Gemma were the think tank with her.
Yeah. So basically, Dr. K has this whole thing going on where she tries not to feel and she tries to be disconnected from everybody. But whenever Jim and Gemma show up, you can tell that she had a bond with them.
Yeah, and like I liked how they were just in the wasteland for years and years, just fighting the robot army.
Yeah.
And so it like had driven them to be like chaotic good, where they were just like blowing things up and destroying things, and they had little people skills, but they were very good at what they were doing.
Oh yeah, they were definitely useful.
Oh, and Ziggy actually had like a not tragic backstory, but he used to be a criminal or wanted to be a criminal, and he double crossed him. So a lot of the episodes that starred him were like, oh no, the mafia is trying to kill me.
Yeah, and that's another testament to how different this season was, is that they actually brought the mafia, organized crime, into the whole thing. It's not just aliens trying to conquer the world. There's actually a real world underbelly thing going on.
Yeah. And like the villains, like Venjix, I like Venjix, and like I don't remember his like main lieutenants. They're just giant robot guys who weren't that great most of the time. But
Yeah.
then you had Tanaya, who was actually Dylan's. Like it turns out that she's Dylan's sister, so spoilers for everything. But like the whole series, you have Venjix bossing this cyborg around, and she's being evil and duping people, and like both her memories and Dylan's memories are kind of coming back at the same time, and eventually things just kind of work out.
Yeah, and that's basically a callback to In Space with Andros and Corone.
Yeah.
So again, it's that whole thing where, really, I think. So, was there any other earlier series that this reminds you of besides In Space, or was that like the only callback?
Like that's yeah, that it reminded me a lot of In Space.
Yeah.
Like the Zords were just cars, which
With animal face.
Yeah, but it didn't bother me as much as I thought it was going to because everything else was just so good about it.
Yeah, the funny thing about this season is that the Sentai Goanger, hopefully I'm saying that right, was a comedy, which, we've seen how that turned out with Turbo being adapted from Car Ranger. But in this case, this season was basically at the time the do or die for the Power Rangers franchise. If they didn't really do something special with this, it probably would have ended about 10 years ago. And some might say it probably should have, but
Yeah, they left on a cliffhanger too.
Which, didn't bother me as bad as I thought it would, because usually cliffhangers bother me.
Yeah. I didn't like how none of the Rangers were in the game, but Dr. K was in Battle for the Grid.
Yeah, well, it's funny. I figured, well, hold on a minute. One of the games, Legacy Wars, they have Gemma in there. But that's probably, that has a better roster of characters, but I don't think it's as impressive as Battle for the Grid.
No.
In my opinion.
No. Like one of the episodes I liked here, like I like most of the episodes. One that really stuck out was when like it was an episode where Dr. K was letting them ask questions about everything, like the Zords and stuff.
Yeah.
And Ziggy brings up how every time they morph, there's an explosion.
Yeah, which is that it's kind of a meta thing.
And then, like later in the episode, he's like, "I have an idea," and he just morphs with his back to like the group of like putty patrollers, and they just explode.
There you go. That's a way to use tropes
Yeah.
in a fun way.
Yes. Anything else we want to say about RPM?
Well, obviously it was our favorite.
Yeah. Yeah.
So actually, there's something interesting that happened right after RPM. So it was basically they were thinking this was probably going to be it for Power Rangers. So we at the end of last episode brought up how they started. What's the term? They kind of updated the visuals for Mighty Morphin. They reformatted it because they thought that they weren't going to do any more Power Rangers. So Disney basically thought, okay, well, let's go back to the beginning and I guess refurbish it. So, and that transitions us into Neo Saban, which you think would be a good thing, but
Yeah. Okay. So before I go on to Neo Zaban, because we're just gonna go over that a little bit. Let's
rankings.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So my
Okay.
rankings were RPM, Dino Thunder, SPD, Jungle Fury, Operation Overdrive, Ninja Storm, and Mystic Force.
Yep. Yep.
And then yours was RPM, SPD, Dino Thunder, Jungle Fury, Ninja Storm, Operation Overdrive, and Mystic Force.
So a few flip flops, but basically more or less the same.
Yeah, on the page we'll put on like our full rankings, including the first era and Neo Saban. So now let's talk about Neo Saban. Let's talk about Power Rangers Samurai.
Or let's not. No, I'm just kidding.
I mean, we don't have to, but we're going to because
There was this tokusatsu show that I watched that actually pitched a very interesting alternate version of this. And it was that the Red Ranger was an actual Japanese kid who moved to America. And really, I mean, I could probably like link it. I'll find it and like link it in the article we write up. But anyway, they made this pitch and it was like that would really fix a lot of the problems that the show had.
one of the things that would fix a lot of the problems that Samurai had was hiring people who could actually act.
Oh, definitely for sure. It's like, I mean, Power Rangers actors aren't necessarily the best actors in the world, but this time around it was like, wow, how did they get past the audition process?
And it's like on the surface, all the characters are ones that I should like.
Yeah.
But they just did such like I hate to say this, but they all just did just a bad job with everything.
Yeah.
Like they did such a bad job. They brought back the Red Ranger from Wild Force, who I'm on record as saying I really disliked, and he was the best part of the show.
Yeah, the actor Richard Medina.
Before he killed that guy.
Yeah, with the katana. Yeah, he was. It was a real basic sounding name, but anyway, he was one of the side villains.
Yeah, the actual villain, like he was just this guy on a boat, being angry that he was on a boat.
He kind of reminded me of what it would be like if Goldar was running the show.
I think Goldar would be a bit more proactive than this guy. He was just like, "Oh, I have a headache. I'm on this boat. I don't want to be on this boat."
Yeah, they were trying to do a callback to Rita with the whole headache thing.
Yeah.
Really, Go ahead.
A lot of the villains would say they would have a headache. I've noticed they keep on bringing that up.
It's
But
like, 'cause I think this was the case with a lot of dubbed characters. It's like they didn't know what else to say, so that's what they just kept on using for the dub.
at least they stopped using all those weird accents Mighty Morphin Power Rangers used.
Yeah, I guess that's one minor improvement.
Yeah, but okay. Speaking of Mighty Morphin Power Rangers, Bulk came back.
Yes, Bolt came back, and he was mentoring Skull's son, Spike.
And like I remember when I was first watching, I was like, how can he have a son? And then I realized, oh, it's been 13 years since we've seen these people.
Yeah,
But
sometimes stuff happens.
like the son is like you get why Skull sent him away for a while. Because the son is the most obnoxious, annoying person in the world.
Yeah, even Skull couldn't take that.
No. Poor Skull. Like the whole time, like up to this point, I kept on being like, man, I kind of miss Bulk and Skull. I wish they'd come back. And it was like, here's your monkey paw wish. They're back.
I mean, Bulk was okay. It was just unfortunately, I guess, what they had him doing.
Yeah. It just, yeah.
Decker was the name of the Richard Medina character. It didn't sound like it belonged on a Ranger show, but I guess there it is.
Yeah, like his storyline was the only one that had any kind of pathos to it, because he was like he and like the female monster were used to be human lovers, and then there was an accident, and now they're trying to kind of get back to things, but they didn't.
Yeah, and I agree. I remember whenever I first watched this, I was going through it, and I was like, "Is this ever going to get any better?" And then that popped up, and I was like, "Okay, here we go. This is something actually interesting." Like you said, it had pathos.
Yeah, and then the Sixth Ranger, like in every other series, the Sixth Ranger shows up and is like a game changer.
Yeah.
And here, he's just some guy that knew the Red Ranger when they were kids.
Wow.
And
groundbreaking.
yeah. And like he made his own Zord.
Which was a squid, I do believe.
Yeah.
The Zords were kind of interesting.
They were really round.
They're really round. Yeah, they were origami based or something, I do believe.
Yeah.
Which, that's cool.
Yeah.
But, suffice to say, this wasn't a great comeback for Saban.
No, it made me very apprehensive about everything going forward.
Although I did like the theme song coming back. That was a pretty good rendition of it.
It was. That was like one of the only good parts of this show.
Yeah. We can probably count them on one hand and not even make it to 5.
Yeah.
So now go ahead.
Yeah, I was just going to say, now we can move on to Megaforce.
Which, again, this is kind of like our Operation Overdrive for Neo Saban, because we kind of liked it a little bit better. A little bit better than Samurai.
Yeah, a lot better than Samurai, because like the Rangers could actually act. I mean, they weren't like Oscar level, but you watched it and were like, oh yeah, I can see them doing stuff.
Yeah, and Gia, who's the Yellow Ranger for the Megaforce season, she's become a bit of a fan favorite. And there was
that, yeah,
and there's definitely because this season came out in 2013, so that would have been the 20th anniversary. So there is a bit of actually probably the most callbacks to Mighty Morphin with this one.
Definitely. I mean, like in the first half of the series, they weren't that many. I mean, like every episode had some.
Yeah.
But when it came to Super Megaforce, that's when like the cameos started.
Oh yeah, because they were adapting a Sentai anniversary season, and they like the gimmick of that show was that I don't want to misquote it, but the impression I got is that they were pirates who were pirating the powers of other Rangers throughout the years. Basically, that's what kind of explained the pirate theme, I think.
It makes as much sense as what was actually going on.
Yeah, because they never did explain it on Megaforce, but the
No,
fun
they did
thing
a
was
little bit.
they did.
Yeah, like the giant tiki head that was kind of like Zordon, but not. Had
Yeah,
all
those.
those action figures,
Yeah, yeah. The
and
Ranger
then
team.
yeah, and they'd send him to him and be like, "Oh yeah, I can use this now."
Yeah,
Like
that's nice.
they went to Corinth, and I was hoping to see like Dr. K or one of the Rangers, but no, it was just one of their cars.
Oh, that reminds me. Did you ever watch that Clash of the Red Rangers movie?
No, not
Where
yet.
okay, that goes. I mean, it's about the same as the rest of Samurai, but it's nice to see a little bit of RPM thrown in there.
Yeah, and like the last battle in Megaforce had most of the Rangers from like the first 20 years, so it was nice to see them again. But Tommy was a Green Ranger for some reason, which makes
Well, yeah.
absolutely no sense.
Did you see that bit where they showed them like in their civilian identities saving people whenever the invasion was going down,
Yeah,
and like they would have like the Ranger helmet kind of transparently come over their face. So he's basically saving somebody from a car hanging over a bridge, and he uses Saba to help him up. And it's the White Ranger helmet that comes up, and then later he's the Green Ranger.
it's like there's no consistency with that. It was good to see him
Although,
again, but
yeah, although you haven't got there yet, and unfortunately you have to work your way through Ninja Steel to get to it. They do explain why he's able to go between Ranger identities, and I might as well just spoil it. He has a Master Morpher.
when does that? When does he show up again?
I don't know the exact number. It's in the second half of Ninja Steel, and it's their team up episode. It's not bad. It's probably my favorite episode from Ninja Steel, but then again, I haven't finished it yet. So
And I have a reason to keep going.
yeah, I mean, I thought it was it kind of has some Once a Ranger vibes going on.
Okay, let's see. After Megaforce, we had Dino Charge. Was that what it was
Which
called?
yeah, Dino Charge. Which I kind of go to bat for this one. This is probably my favorite from Neo Saban. But you go ahead because you have some good criticism.
I like it,
Yeah.
but there are some problems I have with it.
Oh,
First and
definitely.
foremost,
Yeah.
Keeper.
Yeah.
Keeper who caused the extinction of the dinosaurs.
That dick.
He is a Zordon. He is like the main hero in this series, and he caused the extinction of all the dinosaurs.
Keeper is not a keeper.
No, that
I stole your line there, but you're right.
yeah. And there's 10 rangers here. There's 10 rangers, and like most of them have something weird going on with them. There's a caveman, there's a knight, there's a prince, there's a birdman, there's a kid looking for his dad. There's the kid's dad.
Yeah.
Just
And the actor isn't even that much older than him, which is
like
funny.
they explain that away at least.
Yeah, it was some kind of he was frozen in time, wasn't it?
Yeah. Or like either frozen in
Suspended
time
animation.
or the Dino Charge key
Ah,
slows aging or something.
there you go. That's what it was.
And like I like I did like the villain for the second half.
Yeah, Heckle.
Yeah, like
Heckle.
Heckle hit all my buttons. He was a human villain. He slowly became. Well, he didn't slowly become good. He kind of. It's just gonna happen one episode.
Yeah.
Like,
Well, go ahead.
there's like one moment he was bad, and then he was like, "Oh man, he went from bad to neutral to good." But it was like 2 episodes worth of stuff.
Yeah. Well, here's something I wish they had done on the show because they had a costume and footage for this. I don't think I told you this, but in the comic books, Heckle becomes the Talon Ranger, I think it is, and he is a Spinosaurus themed Ranger.
That's neat.
And there's basically this ensemble of different Ranger characters who go on a mission in the comic books, and he's one of them. So I thought that was really cool. I haven't read that one yet, but it has my interest.
And here at the end of the show, they go back in time, and they stop Keeper from pretty much exterminating the dinosaurs.
Yeah, and they live on into the present.
Which, whatever. And then they send the caveman and the knight back, and they send Heckle back, and he becomes keeper of his planet.
Yeah.
And it's like in the moment, the series was just fine. It's just so many things going on.
I don't know. I guess what I like about it is that it kind of reminds me of Jungle Fury to an extent. Not as good, but there's some elements there. Like this is a superficial one, but there's civilian jobs that they do. They work at a dino themed burger joint, and Jungle Fury was pizza.
Yeah, I mean, like,
that's the first one that comes to mind,
yeah.
but there's probably other ones too.
And then there's all that's left is Ninja Steel, and
I
just don't get what's going on with Ninja Steel.
Yeah. I mean, whenever I started, I thought, okay, this isn't that bad, but then it kind of started dipping back into samurai territory.
I just don't get what the villain's thing is. Like, he's supposed to be like he's the main villain, but I don't get why.
Yeah. Well, I forgot what the character's name is. There's like this Fox-themed female villain that's kind of sneaking around behind his back scheming, and she's a bit more interesting.
I do like her.
Yeah. I think yeah, it is Ninja Steel, isn't it?
Hmm?
That character I just mentioned, that is Ninja Steel, isn't it?
Yeah. She kidnapped one of the guys and made a robot and whatever.
Yeah.
And she's doing double crosses. Like, I get what she's trying to do.
Yeah.
But the main guy, has a TV show.
Like a gladiator type thing, isn't it?
Yeah. Anything else you want to talk about before we wrap it up today?
No, I think aside from Neo Saban, we kind of saved the best for last for Disney era.
Yeah. And
go ahead.
We do plan on continuing this series. We're just done with Power Rangers for now. I don't know what the next Retro Revelations is going to entail, because it's not up to me, really, but...
Well, we've had some things tossed around, like G.I. Joe, Transformers, stuff like that.
Yeah.
But that'll probably be with some other guys.
Yeah, so, we'll bring Randall and Jeffrey into things. Since it's been pretty much me and Trevor the whole time.
Well, I think we took the plunge into Power Rangers when nobody else wanted to.
Yeah, no one else dared.
Yeah. And here we are, just kind of But I'll get back into it.
Yeah.
One of these days.
I mean, I think once I get done with Beast Morphers and I'm able to, start watching something else, I will be a bit more... I'll be able to look back on things a bit fondly. I think I'm a little burned out on Power Rangers.
And it's bound to happen because it's like 22 seasons.
Yeah. It's so many.
So if you're going through them all sequentially, it definitely will test your limits.
Yeah, okay. Well, anything else we want to say before we go?
No, I think this was pretty fun.
Overall. Yeah, everything worked out pretty well. So thank you for listening. Don't forget to visit us at fictosphere.com. And we'll see you later. This is Mike Diffison signing off. And
this is Trevor Thompson.
Yeah, so thank you for listening or watching, whatever you're doing with this.
Thanks, guys.